Hello, welcome to week 3 of Natalie's Book Nook. This week I'm going to be covering a topic. So recently we've had some people, friends of ours from church, whose neighbor recently lost their dad, and it got us talking about some books we could give the younger girls to talk about grief. And I thought that it would be good. We all deal with grief in some aspect, especially now. And so a couple of these books are ones that I will probably have on hand in case that day comes where we need to explain that to our son. But the first one, they're actually all from the same publisher, these 3 that I'm going to share. They're from New Growth Press, their stuff is really good. The first one is one of our favorite books. Peter says, it's Why Do We Say Goodnight? And it's by Champ Thornton. Peter says, why do we say good night? But this is one of his favorite books. And obviously when I look for a book, I look for a good message and great pictures. This has it's kind of like a creepy vibe to it a little bit, but it's good because it's all about why do we say goodnight to, why do we say good? Why is it good? Because it's scary and it's dark and I don't like night. And she's telling her mom this, and the mom's like, thank you for telling me how you feel, but stop to think what else is real. The Lord made day and night, so even dark is good and right, which I had never really thought about before. He made the dark. He separated the light from the dark. And we also don't need to fear because God is with us and He is here and He is looking over us. God sees all. The dark is not dark to Him. And it's actually really cool because Peter's been struggling with some at night going to sleep, and one night Cameron quoted the last 2 pages of the book to him, and he laid down and was fine. It says, "Good night, dear one, you need not fear. Good night, sleep well, the Lord is here. Good night." And then there's the picture of the shepherd there guarding his sheep, watching over him. So this is a great book, especially if your kid's afraid of the dark. It doesn't have to really do with grief, but it's in the same publishing house, and so I thought I'd do them all at once. But this is just, if I would recommend a book, I would say this one. It's especially helped with Peter, even him being so young, and it can help your kids if they're afraid of the dark. The other ones that I'm going to suggest, this one I will give a warning, and I think it's good that you know this because if you start reading it, then you realize, what's going on? This is a really good book if you have had a miscarriage or something like that. The story is about a family who they celebrate the mom getting pregnant and all that kind of stuff, and then she ends up giving birth to a stillborn baby. So this would probably be more specific to, if that happened in your life, or if you know a friend who has gone through that, and explaining it to their kid if they're a little bit older, because it does go through. The pictures it's a beautifully drawn book, really good. Just talking about how even though we can't always see the moon is always round. And that means that even when we can't see it, God is always good. So great thing to take away from that. But I think I would say, unless you have a kid, you can I'll leave this up to your discretion. But it shows the funeral and stuff like that. So if you need a book where you want to talk about this is a great resource. But also be aware before you read it to your kids and make sure that you do want them to be exposed to this. So my other one, this is probably my new all-time favorite book. I just got it this week, and it is so good. It's about Henry, who says goodbye to his ladybug friend It was his pet, and they all had pets when they went to school, and he loved his pet, the hedgehog. He's just so cute. But then she got sick and she died, and it's about how he felt really sad. And what I love about this book is it doesn't just like gloss over the fact that yeah, he's sad, but there was happy times too. Like it shows like he was really sad, and it's okay to be sad. But then his family like talks to him about how even if you're sad, like they hold a memorial for the ladybug, and they talk about the ladybug and how she was loved by everyone. And then what I really love about this book especially is that he presents the gospel. He says, he talks about how God is close to the brokenhearted, but then he also says like there will be one day when there will be no crying or tears. And so that's really cool. What I like about the back of this book is it has some resources on like how to talk to your child with sadness, and ways to like explain it to them, explain death to them. And then also it has these little like pocket verses that they can put in their back pocket to remember God's promises, and they can like rip and like be folded up. So I would highly recommend this book, because I think even it's not as graphic as The Moon is Always Round, so I think you could probably, read it at any point. And I'm thinking of just having this on hand, because evidently someone or something will pass away in Peter's life, and I'll want to be able to read this to him. The next one that I am going to recommend is called Goodbye to Goodbyes, and it's written by Lauren Chandler. So this is thegoodbook.com is the publisher here, and they have a bunch of different ones in this series. God's Very Good Idea, The Christmas Promise, Friend Who Forgives, those types of things. And this is great because it pulls a story from the Bible, John 11, where it talks about Lazarus and Mary and Martha and how Lazarus died. I will say it's pretty accurate when it comes to like Bible depiction. The only thing I would say is when Martha and Jesus are talking, they kind of summarize and also like change some of the words that he says. So you can kind of discern what you want to do about that part, but it's saying like Jesus says, but when reading this and comparing it to the Bible, it wasn't exactly like what he was saying. So it's just like that part there. But the rest of it is really good, talking about how one day, it talks about how Lazarus rose, but then it talks about how like one day we won't, we will all be in heaven, those who love Jesus. And it talks about, it always says like a friend who loves Jesus, which I think is a good depiction of like, okay, a friend is, it's not just anybody will go to heaven, but a friend of Jesus, someone who loves Jesus, will go to heaven. So that's another good one to talk about when about grief. And then the last one is just a fun one that we got from the library, and I thought it was so fitting, especially because there's a lot of people in our church life and our friends and things that have gotten sick. And this is just the cutest little book. It's called Bear Feels Sick, and it's all about how Bear gets sick and he's just not feeling good, and he has his little friends from the forest come and they help him. So cute. They help him get better. They feed him soup and they cover him with blankets, and he's just not getting better and not getting better. And then one day he ends up getting better, and they work very hard with him and like give him everything, give some herbs, things like that to help him feel better. And then he eventually does feel better, and they're like so excited that he's feeling better. Poor rabbit and the other animals start feeling sick, and it's so sad. But then it talks about how, don't worry, Bear takes care of them all. He tucks them all into bed, and he kisses them on the head. And then he tells all his friends, "You'll soon feel like new. You took care of me, and now I'll take care of you." Just a really sweet, even depicting like the body of Christ and how like we all serve each other and help each other feel better by taking care of them. And it's just a really sweet book. We really liked it. So, Bear Feels Sick is the name of that one. You could probably get that at your local library. All right, I hope you enjoyed these recommendations. I'll put them on my link in my bio, and hopefully they'll help if you ever have grief in your life and need to talk about it with your child.